You know those scientific headlines that pop up and just sound terrifying? Well, one of those made the rounds recently, causing a ton of concern. So today, let's unpack the real story behind it. Okay, so let's just dive right in. The question that got everyone's attention was this: is there really a radioactive substance in breast milk? I mean, just the idea of that is pretty alarming, right? And yeah, that's exactly what caused this big wave of panic. And believe it or not, the short answer is yes. A study published in the journal Nature found exactly that. Researchers in Bihar, India, were testing breast milk from local mothers, and what they found were traces of uranium in, get this, 100% of the samples. Now, on the surface, that sounds absolutely shocking. But, and this is a huge but, to really get what this means, we've got to look past that scary headline. So let's break down the actual study that kicked this all off. So you can see right away, this wasn't some quick, slapped-together study. They were collecting samples for almost 3 years, starting way back in late 2021 and wrapping up in mid-2024. Then the findings went through peer review and were just published this past November. So we're talking about very fresh, very thorough information here. Okay, so the study itself looked at 40 mothers from 6 different districts in that region. And yep, in every single sample, they found this specific isotope called uranium-238. Now, the researchers have a pretty solid theory about where it's coming from: contaminated groundwater, which unfortunately has been a known problem there for a while.
But here's where the story takes a major turn. You know, finding any amount of a substance is one thing, but the amount you find, that's everything. So let's get into the numbers, because this is where a completely different picture starts to emerge.
All right, so the absolute highest level of uranium they found in any of those 40 samples was 5.25 micrograms per liter. Just let that number sink in for a second. 5.25. Is that a lot? Is it a little? I mean, without any context, it's really just a number, right? And here is that all-important piece of context. The World Health Organization, the WHO, they have set a provisional safe limit for uranium in drinking water. And that limit is 30 micrograms per liter. 30. Okay, now look at this. This chart just lays it all out perfectly. You can see the difference so clearly. That little bar on the left, that's the highest level found in the breast milk. And that big bar on the right, that's the WHO's safe limit for drinking water. I mean, the amount they actually found is almost 6 times lower than what's considered safe to drink every day. So this brings up a really good question. What even is the uranium we're talking about here? Because when most of us hear that word, our minds probably jump to, nuclear reactors and scary stuff. But the reality of what was found in this study is, well, it's a whole different thing. What they found, specifically, was uranium-238. And this stuff is, well, it's the most common kind of uranium on the planet. It makes up more than 99% of all natural uranium. It's only weakly radioactive, and it's a totally natural part of our environment. It's in the rocks, the soil, the water. We are all exposed to tiny, tiny amounts of it pretty much every single day. And get this, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the risk from this kind of uranium isn't from the outside. Our skin is actually tough enough to block its alpha particles. The potential danger comes from ingesting it, but, and this is the key phrase, only in high concentrations. That's when it can start to affect organs like the kidneys. So high concentrations, that's what really matters. Okay, so if the uranium levels they found are so low, then what's the real risk here? Well, public health experts weighed in pretty quickly, and they pointed out that the most immediate danger wasn't the uranium at all. It was something else entirely. Yeah, Dr. Rajiv J. Devan really hit the nail on the head. He warned that the actual immediate danger is that people might misunderstand the study, misinterpret it, and then, in a total panic, stop breastfeeding their babies. And listen, this isn't just some outside expert saying this. One of the study's own authors, Dr. Ashok Sharma, came out and stated it very clearly. He said the levels they observed are expected to have minimal actual health impact, and that without a doubt, breastfeeding should continue. And this is why that advice is so incredibly critical. Because the science on this is beyond settled. The risks of not breastfeeding are huge. It's a proven major cause of infant mortality, serious infections, and malnutrition all over the world. The benefits of breastfeeding are they're immense. So let's be super clear here. This was never a study meant to scare people. It was designed to help inform public health. So let's take a look at what the researchers actually recommended based on what they found. Their recommendations are super clear and really responsible. First up, and this is the big one, keep breastfeeding. The benefits just vastly outweigh the tiny risks they found. Second, they're advising authorities to keep monitoring the groundwater, just to keep an eye on things. And third, they're calling for more research to better understand something called uranium kinetics, which is basically just a fancy way of saying we need a clearer picture of how these elements move through the body. And that really brings us to the final takeaway here. This whole story is just a powerful case study in how important communication really is. It leaves us with a huge question, doesn't it? In this world of instant headlines and clickbait, how do we share important, sometimes complex scientific findings without causing a total panic? That's a real challenge, not just for researchers and journalists, but for all of us.